Shalom, family. Shalom, Israel. This is Sister Nisi Israel coming to you again from Texas with another study topic on the women of Israel and the daughters of Zion that I said I was going to bring. I hope everybody's doing well, and I hope everything is well with you and your family. I hope you're staying strong and, stay in the fight. Be encouraged, because it's getting hard. It's not getting easy for me. So hope you don't think that I'm high and mighty, and I think, hey, it's bad for me too. So I just wanted to bring this study topic on the women of Israel. This is something that's dear to my heart. As studying this topic, I didn't realize how many women affected, the nation of Israel, and and our sisters, they don't realize the women that we come from. We're totally opposite for what the women of Israel were. And a lot of us, we don't know our worth. We don't know our beauty, the beauty that we have. We look at beauty in terms of how we've been mentally taught to. And today, it's time to put a stop to that. Even though we're awakened, we still have sisters that get to approach or befriend, another sister because, one is lighter than the other, or good hair, bad hair. We've been taught to hate each other. We've been taught to, hate our men. And it's time to come back to each other, come back to who we are, and, and realize that we're the daughters of the Most High. That should give us a lot of encouragement, just that alone. But sometimes that's not enough. We need to see who the women were that we are descended from, what they did for the Most High, how they were valuable to the house of Israel. And, the women were important to our nations, and they were very important to the Most High as well. And in many cases, the Most High used the women, to save Israel. Even when the Messiah was being led to his death, all the disciples except for one they fled, for fear. But the women, they stood strong, and they stood with him the whole way, during on his way to the death, during his death, and after his death. you know so we have to realize the women that we come from, we are descended from, and we have to get rid of all of the mental slavery and the mental, anguish that they have put in our minds to think about our own selves and our sisters and our, our mothers and our the female women of our family. So many of our sisters, they're unaware of their work. And today I just want to bring some clarity and hopefully to encourage you, to look at yourself as more than what we've been taught to uh, believe that we were. They have gotten us to the point to where when we take pictures, we don't even face the camera with our face. We face the camera with our behinds, booty. When you do your research, you look up the word booty and you see where it originated from and what it initially means. Booty is what you would get in the spoils of war, like pirates, a pirate's booty. That's what they call the booty, the behind that, because that's what we are to them. We are, we are the spoils of war. The women of the Most High, we were the most beautiful women in the world. You know, why do you think they had to put so much work into convincing our men that the white woman was the epitome of beauty? You know, and it didn't work right away, but eventually, over time, it did work. And now you walk around and you see the majority of a lot of our men, they're with heathen women, and they're not with a woman of their own, nationality, a black woman. So, we really need to shine a light on who we are. Even to the men, they need to know who we are and who we came from. That we're the epitome of beauty. That's why you see them talk about our characteristics, talk about our nose, our lips, our hair, our skin color. But in actuality, they envy that. That's why you see them blowing their lips up with collagen and getting fake behinds and trying to look like us because they don't even understand why they are doing these things. You know what I'm saying? Everybody they trying to get our figure, our voluptuous, but at one time they talked about us bad because of the way we were built. You know, take for the ancestor Sarah Boardman, who was very voluptuous because she was built that way. They put her in a zoo and made a mockery of her. And they made her life hell because of the way that she was shaped. But now you look at them, they're going to have surgery and everything just to try to look like us. So it's time for us to open our eyes and see our own beauty, see our worth. Stop wearing their hair and, because they talk about us, about how we wear their straight hair and try to look like that. And my goodness, please stop dyeing your hair blonde because if you really look in the scriptures and realize what blonde hair means, you wouldn't be wearing it like that. That just goes to show you the mental slavery, that we're under, and it's time to come back to who we have, hair like wool, like our Messiah. So it's time to, be the real daughter of the Most High and stop looking like the heathens. Okay, it's time for us to take our rightful place, and build our nation back. And the only way we can do that, we have to be true with who we are. You know, we have to wear our hair the way it is. We can't be embarrassed to look like a black person because that's who we are. You know, we come from strong women. We don't come from no weak women. We come from women that love the Most High, and their people. So in order to bring up the girls behind us, we have to let them know who they are. We have to teach them their worth, you know, and call them what they truly are. They are real royalty, you know, because a lot of our kids are going to school with these other nations, and they picking on them and all kind of stuff, and they thinking that they with the bottom of the barrel when in actuality they are the epitome of beauty. We see our youth that's having problem with self-esteem, issues or whatever. We need to be able to encourage them. We need to know enough history about who we came from to tell them, look, they mad because you better than them. You the real royalty. It's in your bloodline. You can't buy this type of royalty. You are the real royalty. You descended from royalty, kings and queens. You have to tell them that they're from something. They're about something. Because these people are teaching our children that they just descended from slaves when that's not true. Even our men, some of them when we come into the truth, as soon as they come into the truth, they want to put a gag on us, and silence us. When we have information too, we can do work for the Most High too. That's coming from out of religion, out of Christianity. We have to come back, to who we are. Because we can't let some of these men silence us from doing the work for our Father, because they're going according to Paul. To me, that's another doctrine, because it was women that helped Paul in his ministries. So, what do you mean, the women? He's not talking to all the women of Israel because, according to the scripture, the women of Israel were anything but silent. They did not cower in the background of the men. You know, they spoke up, and then some of them actually risked their lives just to save their nation. You know, so we can't be listening to these men. We'll find it easy ourselves falling back into the ways of religion. So we have to listen to our Father. You know, Listen to our Father. Listen to the scriptures. Because, like I said, we're in the truth. And everything that we learn should be based on the scriptures. And if you're not going to do that, get out the truth. But a lot of our men are following the Apostle Paul doctrine, you know. And it's not to say anything against Apostle Paul. It's just that our men don't understand what he's saying and who he's saying it to, you know. So if you're gonna follow anyone, follow the Most High, follow him. Because being silent and not saying anything is contradicting the laws given to Moses. Because in many cases, if it wasn't for the woman, it wouldn't even be an Israel left. Because a lot of our men, in some cases, were ready to surrender to the enemy. They were ready to go into captivity under the enemy. But the Most High used women. So if it wasn't for some of these women speaking up and risking their lives, these men who are saying this today, that we should shut up and be silent and not teach the Most High word, they wouldn't be here to say that. So in actuality, you owe your life to these women who saved Israel. But the scripture will always expose unrighteousness, and lies. It debunks the doctrines of the Apostle Paul doctrines all day, even with the head covering. That's not in the laws of Moses that the Most High gave to him. That was really a custom. And it's right there in the scripture, to be silent. The women should be silent in Israel. That's not according to the laws of the Most High. Okay, the women can't teach. That's not according to the laws of the Most High. That's all according to Apostle Paul. Okay, it's a lot that's been done in its awakening to keep us quiet. To basically say, I'll go back to sleep a little bit, just go on back to sleep. We got it. When in actuality, you don't have it. So, but like I said, the men that that are doing this and are keeping these doctrines alive, um, they have issues, that they need to deal with. And you can't use it as an excuse because we're all under the mental slavery of the white man. The Willie Lynch letter, it didn't just apply to the men, it applied to the women too, and all their crafty counsel. It applied to all of us, not just some of us, and we have to break that mental slavery. And we break that mental slavery is by doing the opposite of what we was taught to do. So, uh, when you see these men following these doctrines, this exposed them. The scriptures expose them, and it lets you know who's truly following the Most High and who's not, who's truly studying and who's not. It lets you know, what these dudes' hearts are, you know. So we have to realize when we have dislike for someone, or if this is mental slavery, or we have to realize what's on the inside of us first before we can tell anybody else anything. So the men have to be honest with themselves, because when you follow these doctrines, it's revealing your heart, of how you really feel about the daughters of the Most High. Nevertheless, we have to pray for our men, to come completely out of sleep and out of mental slavery, because we've all suffered from it. We have to be patient with our men. But we realize we all been under that, that spell, that was put on us by our oppressors to hate each other, you know. And you have to remember, they didn't just use the mental slavery tactics, they also use sorcery on us. So in in breaking mental slavery, we have to also pray and ask the Most High, to deliver us and free us from that, you know, because they lied to us, and told us that the white woman is the epitome of all beauty, but now that the scales have come off our eyes, we see, the truth of their beauty, or lack thereof. They're creatures. We have to break and destroy the generational curses that kept us divided. That's the only way we're going to be able to come back to each other. The men need to recognize the disapproval and dislike that you have for the black woman, you know, within yourself. And you know what I'm saying? And nobody can do that for you. But you have to, I'm not saying you have to recognize it and then say, oh, yeah, I recognize it in me, and broadcast it to nobody. No. When you recognize it in yourself, you repent, and ask the Most High to remove that from you and help you to love your sisters again, you know, because we have been, divided by the methods of white supremacy, So you have to be honest with yourself, you know, because even some of the young men, you know, you don't even like your own mother, your own black mother, and you definitely don't want any kids coming out looking like her, So you'll go get you a white woman. That has to stop. It really does. It has to stop. And when you see those that dislike of your sisters, or you want to tell one of them that's telling the truth to shut up, you need to check yourself. As many times I see wickedness in me, and I have to check me, you know. Like I'm going to give you an example. I was watching a cooking show, and it was the dude cooking. He was from China, one of them Chinese Asians or whatever, and they serve Buddha, right? So the lady who was doing the interview, he took her to his city, and he took her to, in the city of LA, it's a Thailand, like a China, like the Chinese have their little neighborhoods. Well, the Thailand people have theirs too. Yeah, you should see how they honor that fake God. Like you had to take your shoes off, you had to be quiet, you had to kneel down for so long, and chant, and oh, but they handled him so delicately. And I thought to myself is the realest of the real. Myself said, now look at that. They bowing down. She could barely get down there, but the mama, she could barely get on her knees, but she got down there. And she couldn't even stand up straight on her knees. She was like leaning to the side, And my spirit began to deal with me. Look at that. How they giving reverence and getting on their knees and bowing to their fake God. And here you are, you got the Most High, and you barely get on your knees. You always complaining about your knees hurting and all of that, and back hurting, but you won't get on your knees to the Most High, But it hurt my heart, you know. And then I said, I'm gonna really try to do better, because that's sad, how it's the truth, and I had to repent, and and tell the Most High that I'm sorry, but you have to see yourself, you have to look inside yourself and see to see the way that you are, and that's the only way that you're gonna change, and come back to the Most High, come back to your people. So I just want to give you an example, I see sin, see wrong in me all the time, but I have to check myself, and repent. And that's what you men gonna have to do when you having those feelings of dislike towards your sisters, and it's not all men, it's just some men, mostly the ones dealing with them camps or coming out of the camps, You know what I'm saying? You got to let that mess go. You can't hold your sister down and it's a precious sister because you don't know what the Most High have for us to do for him. But like I said, when you see these type of men, you know they're not studying. And if they are studying, then that's their heart speaking to you. Okay, well, we're gonna move on from that. But men, I really pray that you practice, you know, doing, rebuking that spirit, that make you wanna dislike your sister or whatever, because that's purely a doctrine of Apostle Paul doctrine. It comes from Christianity because they did that to the women pastors. I remember growing up, and women weren't allowed in the pulpits of men preachers. They didn't start being accepted till later on, till I start getting older. But that was really something that the religions they look upon. They be like, women should be quiet. That's because they don't understand. Their religion is only mostly according to Paul. So anyway, I'm gonna leave that alone for right now. But we really, brothers, we really need y'all to, you know what I'm saying, to come back to us. You know, we really need our men. Because without the men, just like I said, without the men, what are we? Just like I said, without the women, you can't destroy the women. You need the women. We need each other. We don't work if we're not as one, as a whole. The first sister that we're gonna look in is Sarah. Sarah, she's our foremother of the nation of Israel. Sarah can be commended for the way that she trusted the Most High, and waited on the Most High. Not only that, Sarah's son, she delivered her son in an old age, and that just goes to show you that our women wasn't no old weaklings, that should be, sitting back, quiet or whatever. She not only did she, have a child in her old age, she also spoke up, when it was time to speak up to her husband, and she told him, to put the woman and her son out. And it seemed cruel, but the Most High, he was on her side as well. And he came and told Abraham, yeah, you listen to her and do what she say, you know. So, that's our foremother Sarah. And then we have Rebecca, who came after her. That was Isaac, her son's wife. And she was very courageous. And remember, she switched. She caused Jacob to pretend to be his brother and get the blessings because the father was going to give them to the elder brother who didn't even care nothing about the birthright or the customs of the Most High. And we see Rebecca taking initiative, and what she did, it seemed deceitful, but the scripture tell you that the Most High, he was in it the whole time. So she was courageous in doing that. And then we see Rachel and Leah. They are our foremothers as well. They are responsible for the 12 patriarchs who are our forefathers. Um, Leah had 8, her and her handmaid, and Rachel had the other 4. And we see Rachel being courageous when she takes her father's gods, when her father is after them, when Jacob wants to leave and go back to his, father. And but he wants to take his wives and his children and his livestock and everything, with him, his his riches, his blessings. And Laban don't want him to leave because the whole time Laban is there, the Most High, he has poured out on Laban, because of Jacob. And Laban knew this. So Laban don't want them to leave. So they have to pretty much sneak away. And I think Rachel paid with her life because she did this. She took her father's gods, and Jacob didn't know. But when they caught up with Jacob, when Laban caught up with Jacob, um, he told him, why would you take my gods? Because the Most High had already told Laban in the dream, hey, don't touch Jacob, you know. So when he caught up to him, he asked him, well, why did you steal my gods? And Jacob was like, no, I didn't do that. He took that very seriously. And he said, if you find them amongst my people, whoever you find them among, gonna die. You know what I'm saying? So he didn't mess with Rachel because Rachel had her time of the month. And so they was like, ooh, you couldn't even sleep with your husband when he was during your time of month in those days. So they wasn't dealing with that at all. So he was like, oh, okay. And he moved on from her, but she was sitting on him. So we're going to go there to the book of Jasher. That's in the 1611 King James Bible. We're going to go to the book of Jasher, the 31st chapter and the 36th verse. Okay, and this is after when this is right before they leave. Okay, and Jacob noticed that, hey, the way he looking at me wicked, like he don't want me to leave or whatever. And so he realized that, okay, he ain't with me no more. So let's start the 36th verse. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban and his children, and behold, it was not towards him in those days as it had been before. And the Most High appeared to Jacob at the expiration of the 6 years, and said unto him, Arise, go forth out of this land, and return to the land of thy birthplace, and I will be with thee. And Jacob rose up at the time, and he mounted his children and wives, and all belonging to him, upon camels. And he went forth to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. And Laban did not know that Jacob had gone from him, for Laban had been that day sheep shearing. And Rachel stole her father's images, and she took them and concealed them upon the camel upon which she sat. And she went on. And this is the manner of the images, in taking a man who is the firstborn and slaying him, and taking the hair off his head, and taking salt and salting the head, and anointing it in oil, then taking a small tablet of copper or a tablet of gold, and writing the name upon it, and placing the tablet under his tongue, and taking the head with the tablet under the tongue, and putting it in the house, and lighting up lights before it, and bowing down to it. What this is explaining is telling you, explaining the images, the gods, the fake gods, or whatever. This is all that was done to this image that he's looking for. And at the time when they bow down to it, it's speaking to them in all matters that they ask of it through the power of the name which is written in it, probably a demon's name. And some make it them in the figures of men, of gold and silver, and go to them in times known to them, and of figures the figures receive the influence of the stars and tell them future things. And in this manner were the images where Rachel stole from her father. And Rachel stole these images, which were her father's, in order that Laban might not know through them where Jacob had gone. This shows you right here why she took his God. Because at first I was like, why would she do that? I can understand that if you just stick to Genesis. But in Jasher, it goes a little bit more into it and tells you that the reason she did it was so he wouldn't know where they went. Okay, but he still ended up catching up to them anyway. And so in the 47th verse, it says, And Laban said to Jacob, What is this that thou hast done to me to flee and deceive me and leave my daughters and their children as captives taken by the sword? Liar. And thou didst not suffer me to kiss them and send them away with joy. And thou didst steal my gods and did go away. And Jacob answered Laban, saying, Because I was afraid, lest thou would take thy daughters by force from me. And now with whomsoever thou findest thy gods, he shall die. And Laban searched for the images, and he examined in all Jacob's tents and furniture, but could not find them. He did not find them because Rachel was sitting on them. But anyway, remember what Jacob said. Whoever had the gods were gonna die. And Rachel only lived 45 years. She died when she was real young, and I think it was in childbirth. I think it was because, that she took her father's gods, and that's the that was the the punishment that Jacob said would happen to the person who did that. But anyway, she was courageous in doing it. She did that so they could get away, without having to be in confrontation with her father and his men, because her father and his men were great men, and they're in Syria. Okay. So, and then Leah went from the tribe of Judah, and that was Judah's mother. And she went through a lot of, anguish and hurt, because of she wanted the love of her husband. She wanted him to love her, and she kept having all these kids thinking that this was gonna make him, be with her. And she, even after Rachel died, even though she didn't get the love until Rachel died, but even right after that, he didn't even go directly to Leah. He went to Rachel's handmaid and moved all his stuff in, in her tent. And that's when Reuben gets mad at that. That's Leah's son. He gets mad, and that's when he sleeps with Bilhah, the Rachel's maid. So that turned Jacob from her. So she ended up with, he ended up with Leah after all. But she went through a lot, and to the point where she began to praise the Most High. She had her own relationship with the Most High. She got closer to the Most High because of this. And through her, our nation was, really created through mostly her, because six of the kids she had on her own. And then she had two with the handmaid. So, the Most High was really with her, and he made her fruitful or whatever. But she went through a lot, to build this nation. And then we'll go to Miriam, Moses' sister. And if you know anything about the birth of Moses, you ever seen the fake movies they put out with the white people, you will know that Miriam was Moses' sister, and she was the one that put him in the basket, and pretty much she chaperoned him until he reached safety. And the Most High also used her even after that. He used her, in the establishment of the nation of Israel when they came out of Egypt. Okay, and but she also got punished too, because she spoke out of turn, against the prophet of the Most High. So you have to watch how you treat the Most High, and what you say to him, and how we handle him. Okay, and then let's go to the one Judith. Judith was very highly respected. She was a widow during the time of her act, but she was very courageous. She was very faithful to the Most High, and she trusted and believed in the Most High. So we're gonna go to her. We're gonna go to Judith, and Judith is also in the 1611 Bible. So I pray that you have your 1611 Bible with you. If you don't, like I said, you can download it off of Google Play. It works just as fine, and it's also, like I said, a good study tool as well. Okay, in Judith, how it begins, King Nebuchadnezzar, the son, he tries to go up against Persia to fight. And he tries to call all the people around him, to come and help him or whatever. But they don't pay him no attention. They ignore him. They play him off like, oh, whatever. They're not afraid of him. So when they do that, he gets so mad till he gets his army together, and he come out and he start to come up against these same people that wouldn't come, including Israel, and help him fight. And he had a captain called Holofernes. Holofernes was feared among, all the the nations round about, because Nebuchadnezzar came up and used him to make a great slaughter. So everybody was afraid of him, and he started to trouble Jerusalem, and threatened. He started putting everybody under his control. I mean, he was going through warring with all of them, putting them under subjection. So when he gets to Israel, Israel is afraid of him because his name has gone out into, a fame. And in the fourth chapter, we see them come into play. Okay, so I'm going to start reading here in Judith, the fourth chapter, in the first verse. Now the children of Israel that dwelt in Judea heard all that Holofernes, the chief captain of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, had done to the nations, and after what manner he had spoiled all their temples and brought them to naught. Therefore they were exceedingly afraid of him, and were troubled for Jerusalem and for the temple of the Most High, for they were newly returned from the captivity, and all the people of Judea were lately gathered together, and the vessels and the altar and the house were sanctified after the profanation. Therefore they sent into all the coasts of Samaria and all the villages, and to Betharon and Belman and Jericho, and to Choba and Isarah, and to the valley of Salem, and possessed themselves beforehand of all the tops of the high mountains and fortified villages that were in them, and laid up victuals for the provision of war, for their fields were of late reaped. Also Joachim the high priest, which was in those days in Jerusalem, wrote to them that dwelt in the Bethulia and Betulmas, whatever that is, which is over against Esdraelon toward the open country near Dothan, charging them to keep the passages of the hill country, for by them there was an entrance into Judah, and it was easy to stop them that would come up, because the passage was straight for 2 men at the most. And the children of Israel did as Joachim the high priest had commanded them, with the ancients of all the people of Israel which dwelt at Jerusalem. Then every man of Israel cried to the Most High with great fervency, and with great vehemency did they humble their souls, both they and their wives and their children and their cattle, and even their stranger and hireling and their servants bought with money, put sackcloths upon their loins. Thus every man and woman and the little children and the inhabitants of Jerusalem fell before the temple, and cast ashes upon their heads, and spread out their sackcloth before the face of the Most High. Also they put sackcloth about the altar, and cried to the Most High of Israel all with one consent earnestly, that he would not give their children for a prey, and their wives for a spoil, and the cities of their inheritance to destruction, and the sanctuary to profanation and reproach, and for the nations to rejoice at it. So the Most High heard their prayers, and looked upon their afflictions, for the people fasted many days in all Judah and Jerusalem before the sanctuary of the Almighty. And Joachim the high priest, and all the priests that stood before the Most High, and they which ministered unto the Most High, had their loins girt about with sackcloth, and offered their daily burnt offerings with the vows and free gifts of the people, and had ashes on their mitres, and cried unto the Most High with all their power, that he will look upon all the house of Israel graciously. What they're doing is they're crying out to the Most High, okay, and asking the Most High to protect them from Holofernes. Okay, and in the fifth chapter, we see that Holofernes, he hear that they not, that they're getting ready to go to war with him, that they're not afraid, So he hear about them, so he starts to move closer to their camp, right? So he can, go to war and take over them. This angers him when he finds out, oh, the children of Israel, that they suited up. They suited up and they secured their borders and everything. So that he becomes mad, and he began to call all the people around, the princes of Moab and Ammon, and all of the people that he's already put under subjection, to fight with him against the children of Israel. And when this happens, the children of Israel, they become afraid, some of them. So one man from Moab, he tells them, look, if these people are keeping the laws of they Elohym or whatever, if they're keeping the laws, you will not be able to defeat them because their God is going to fight for them. He's going to, protect them or whatever. And he said, but if they are sinning, you can go in and you can, what I'm saying, you can slaughter them, and take everything from them. Even the heathens around about knew, that if we were keeping the laws and statutes and commandments of the Most High, they cannot fool us because the Most High will protect us and defend us. So that just goes to show you that when they were trying to get us to eat pork and all that stuff like that, because they know that if they get us to sin, that they can keep us away from our Elohim. That's what they're doing now. The white man today, he does this for a reason. And we're gonna keep on with this. But when the guy from Moab started telling him, he gets real angry, with pride and puffed up and like, what? And so they just, because they felt like, okay, he's speaking up for the children of Israel, trying to make us afraid of them or whatever. So what they did, they beat him up, did him real bad, and they put him in a way where the Israelites could find him. And they ended up finding him, and he told them all what was going on. Children of Israel began to be afraid of them when they began to encamp around them, got real close to them. And so he was beginning to bring his people in. And as he was doing that, the children of Israel got to the point where they were going to surrender. And that's when Judy comes into play. And she tells the men, no, hold up, before you do that. Wait a minute. Let me go pray. Let me go talk to the Most High. So we're going to start in chapter 8 of Judith. We're going to pick up here. We're going to start at Judith, the 8th chapter, and the first verse. Now at that time, Judith heard thereof, which was the daughter of Merari, the son of Ox, the son of Joseph, the son of Ozel, the son of Elsiah, the son of Ananias, the son of Gideon, the son of Raphaim, the son of Asitho, the son of Elihu, the son of Eliab, the son of Nathaniel, the son of Samael, the son of Salazabal, the son of Israel. And Manasseh was her husband of her tribe and kindred, who died in the barley harvest. For as he stood overseeing them that bound sheaves in the field, the heat came upon his head, and he fell on his bed and died in the city of Bethuel. And they buried him with his fathers in the field between Dothan and Belamo. So Judith was a widow in her house 3 years and 4 months, and she made her a tent upon the top of her house, and put on sackcloth upon her loins, and wear her widow's apparel. And she fasted all the days of her widowhood, save the eves of the Sabbath, and the Sabbaths, and the eves of the new moons, and the new moons, and the feasts, and the solemn days of the house of Israel. She was also of a goodly countenance, and very beautiful to behold. And her husband Manasseh had left her gold and silver, and men servants, and maid servants, and cattle, and land, and she remained upon them. And there was none that gave her an ill word, as she feared the Most High greatly. Now, when she heard the evil words of the people against the governor, that they fainted for lack of water, for Judith had heard all the words that Ozias had spoken unto them, and that he had sworn to deliver the city unto the Assyrians after 5 days. Then she sent her waiting woman, and that had the government of all things that she had, to call Ozias and Shabri and Sharmis, the ancients of the city. And they came unto her, and she said unto them, Hear me now, O governors of the inhabitants of Bethuel, for your words that ye have spoken before the people this day are not right, touching this oath which ye made and pronounced between the Most High and you, and have promised to deliver the city to our enemies, unless within these days the Most High turn to help you. And now who are you that have tempted the Most High this day, and stand instead of the Most High? among the children of men. And now try the Most High Almighty, but ye shall never know anything. For ye cannot find the depth of the heart of man, neither can ye perceive the things that he thinketh. Then how can ye search out the Most High that had made all these things, and know his mind, or comprehend his purpose? Nay, my brethren, provoke not the Most High our Elohim to anger. For if he will not help us within these 5 days, he has power to defend us when he will, even every day, or to destroy us before our enemies. Do not bind the counsels of the Most High Elohim, for the Most High is not a man that he may be threatened, neither is he as son of man that he should be wavering. Therefore let us wait for the salvation of him, and call upon him to help us, and he will hear our voice if it please him. For there arose none in our age, neither is there any now in these days, neither tribe, nor family, nor people, nor city among us, which worship gods made with hands, as has been aforetime. For the which cause our fathers were given to the sword, and for a spoil, and had a great fault before our enemies. But we know none other than the Most High. Therefore we trust that he will not despise us, nor any of our nation. For if we be taken so, all Judah shall lie waste, and our sanctuary shall be spoiled, and he will require the profanation thereof at our mouth, and the slaughter of our brethren, and the captivity of the country, and the desolation of our inheritance will he turn upon our heads among the Gentiles, wheresoever we shall be in bondage, and we shall be an offense and a reproach to all them that possess us. For our servitude shall not be directed to favor, but the Most High our Elohim shall turn it to dishonor. Now therefore, O brethren, let us show an example to our brethren, because their hearts depend upon us, and the sanctuary, and the house, and the altar rest upon us. Moreover, let us give thanks to the Most High our Elohim, which tried us, even as he did our father. Remember what things he did to Abraham, and how he tried Isaac, and what happened to Jacob in Mesopotamia of Syria, when he kept the sheep of Laban his mother's brother. For he had not tried us in the fire as he did them, for the examination of their hearts, neither hath he taken vengeance on us, but the Most High discouraged them that come near unto him to admonish them. Then said Ozias to her, all that thou hast spoken, hast thou spoken with a good heart, and there is none that may gainsay thy words. For this is not the first day wherein thy wisdom is manifested, but from the beginning of thy days all the people have known thy understanding, because the disposition of thine heart is good. But the people were very thirsty, and compelled us to do unto them as we have spoken, and to bring an oath upon ourselves, which we will not break. Now therefore pray thou for us, because thou art a godly woman, and the Most High will send us rain to fill our cisterns, and we shall faint no more. Then we're gonna see Judith go to the Most High. She gonna, pray, fall on her face, and all of that to the Most High, and he hears her, and she end up going to Holophony's tent, and she goes in there, and he's so taken with her beauty, and he end up letting his guard down. So we're gonna skip over to we're gonna go to the 10th chapter. Now after that she ceased to cry unto the Most High of Israel, and had made an end to all these words. She rose where she had fallen down, and called her maid, and went down into the house in which she abode in the 7 days, and in her feast days, and pulled off the sackcloth which she had on, and put off the garments of her widowhood, and washed her body all over with water, and anointed herself with precious ointment, and braided the hair of her head, and put a tire upon it, and put on garments of gladness, wherewith she was clad during the life of Manasseh her husband. And she took sandals upon her feet, and put about her bracelets, and her chains, her rings, her earrings, and her ornaments, and decked herself bravely, to allure the eyes of all men that should see her. Then she gave her maid a bottle of wine, and cruse of oil, and filled a bag with parched corn, and lumps of figs, and with fine bread. So she folded all these things together and laid them upon her. Thus they went forth to the gate of the city of Bethula, and found standing there Ozias and the ancients of the city of Charmers. And when they saw her, that her countenance was altered, and her when they saw her that her countenance was altered and her apparel was changed, they wondered at her beauty very greatly, and said unto her, The Most High, the Elohym of our fathers, give thee favor and accomplish thine enterprises to the glory of the children of Israel, to the exaltation of Jerusalem. Then they worshipped the Most High. And she said unto them, Command the gates of the city to be opened unto me, that I may go forth to accomplish the thing whereof ye have spoken with me. So they commanded the young men to open unto her as she had spoken. And when they had done so, Judith went out, she and her maid with her. And the men of the city looked after her until she was gone down the mountain, until she had passed the valley, and could see her no more. Thus they went straight forth in the valley, and the first watch of the Assyrians met her, and took her and asked her, O what people art thou? And whence comest thou? And she go, and whither goest thou? And she said, I am a woman of the Hebrews, and am fled from them, for they shall be given you to be consumed. And I am coming before Holofernes, the chief captain of your army, to declare words of truth, and I will show him a way whereby he shall go and win all the hill country without losing the body or life of any one of his men. Now when the men heard her words and beheld her countenance, they wondered greatly at her beauty, and said unto her, Thou hast saved thy life, and thou hast come down to the presence of our Lord. Now therefore come to his tent, and some of us shall conduct thee until they have delivered thee to his hand. And when they stand before him, be not afraid in thy heart, but show unto him according to thy word, and he will entreat thee well. Then they chose out of them 100 men to accompany her, and her maid, and they brought her to the tent of Holofernes. Then was there a concourse throughout all the camp, for her coming was noised among the tent, and they came about her as she stood without the tent of Holofernes, till they told of him her. And they wondered at her beauty, and admired the children of Israel because of her. And everyone said to his neighbor, Who would despise these people that have among them such women? Surely it is not good that one man of them be left, who being let go might deceive the whole earth. And they that lay near Holofernes went out, and all his servants, and they brought her into the tent. Now Holofernes rested upon his bed under their canopy, which was woven with purple and gold and emeralds and precious stones. So they showed him of her, and he came out before his tent with silver lamps going before him. And when Judah was come before him and his servants, they all marveled at the beauty of her countenance. And she fell down upon her face and did reverence him unto him, and his servants took her up. Okay, we're in the 11th chapter. Then said Holofernes unto her, Woman, be of good courage, be of good comfort. Fear not in thy heart, for I never heard any that was willing to serve Nebuchadnezzar, the king of all the earth. Now therefore, if thy people that dwelleth in the mountains have not said lie by me, I would not have lifted up my spear against them, but they have done these things to themselves. So she done made it into the tent. Okay. But what I really wanted y'all to see was the beauty, how beautiful she was. She wasn't no light skinned either. She was dark skinned woman, beautiful, woolly hair. So she braided her hair and tied a tire in it. You know, she was a very beautiful woman. And then they even began to say that they were going to even wipe out all our men to take the women. Y'all men better be careful. Let's finish reading. Okay, so she makes it into the tent. So all the while she's there, she's playing him, like I'm gonna show you, how to get to the a certain part of Judah where you can come in and you can just wipe them all out. They done sin before the Most High, and whenever they sin before the Most High, you can get them. You know what I'm saying? Knowing all the while that they've been crying out to the Most High. So his intentions are not honorable, well, for Judith. He does not intend on keeping her safe. He intends on raping her. He intends on raping her. But she won't drink with him until, after a couple days. Then once she's had to drink with him, then he decides, okay, this is the day I'm gonna get her drunk and I'm gonna take her. But that's not how it happened. And we're gonna see in the 13th, we're gonna move over to the 13th chapter. And it says, now when the evening was come, his servants made haste to depart, and Bago shut his tent without, and dismissed the waiters from the presence of his lord. And they went to their beds, for they were all weary, because the feast had been long. And Judith was left alone in the tent with Holofernes, lying alone upon his bed, for he was filled with wine. Instead of him getting her drunk, she got him drunk. Now Judith had commanded her maid to stand without her bedchamber, and to wait for her, coming forth as she did daily. For she said she would go forth to her prayers, and spake to Bagoas according to the same purpose. So all went forth, and none was left to the bedchamber, neither little or great. Then Judith, standing by his bed, said in her heart, O Yah of all power, look at this present upon the works of my hand for the exaltation of Jerusalem. Now is the time to help thy inheritance, and to execute thine enterprises to the destruction of the enemies which are risen against us. Then she came to the pillar of the bed, which was at Holofernes' head, and took down his falchion from thence, and approached to his bed, and took hold of his hair of his head, and said, Strengthen me, O Master Elohym of Israel, this day. And she smote twice upon his neck with all her might, and she took away his head from him, and tumbled his body down from the bed, and pulled down a canopy from the pillows. And anon after she went forth, and gave Holofernes his head to her maid, and she put it in her bag of meat. So they twain went together according to the custom unto prayer. And when they passed the camp, they compassed the valley, and went up the mountain of Bethuel, and came to the gates thereof. Then said Judas afar off to the watchman of the gate, open now the gate. The Most High, even our Elohim, is with us, to show his power yet in Jerusalem, and his forces against the enemy, as he had done this day. But she cut his head off to save her nation. She put herself at risk of being raped and killed. You know, she even scolded the two elders, the men who had said that they were going to surrender, who were trying to tempt the Most High, and say, well, if you don't deliver us, woo, 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 what? How are you going to tell the Most High what you're going to do if he don't help you? You can't do that. But anyway, this is what happened. Not only was she beautiful, they were saying how our women were the most beautiful in the land. These are the women that we come from. Had she been silent, like some of these men tell us to do, then we probably wouldn't even have a nation right now. And Judas was an honorable woman. She was honorable throughout all her days, and she never remarried again, even though a lot of men wanted to marry her. She kept her widowhood, and she served the Most High the rest of her days. But these are the women that we descended from. Okay. Another one is Queen Esther. Queen Esther rose up to be a queen in captivity when we were in the Persian captivity. She rose up, and the king, he picked her to be queen. And she talks about how she had to lay with this uncircumcised heathen, you know? So don't count our women out like we didn't do anything. Because some of us did stuff that we really didn't want to do, and she ended up saving Israel because it was one man um he hated the Jews so much till he tried, and he hated Mordecai, her uncle. He hated us so much. He tried to annihilate us. Put out he was underneath the he was right the second in command to the king. And he listened to him, whenever he gave him advice. And he told him that it was a people that were living amongst the kingdom that needed to be, that were against him and needed to be killed or whatever. And so he ended up putting out a proclamation from the king to destroy all the Jews. But she came and she had to reveal herself to the king that, hey, I'm a Jew, you know? And he ended up having mercy on her. The same faith that Haman, the one who hated the Jews, who came against the Jews to wipe us out, he ended up dying on the same, what you call that thing? He ended up meeting the same fate that he had planned for the Israelites, all because of Queen Esther. She had to go, she couldn't go before the king. It was the law. She could not go before the king anytime she wanted, and unless he called for her. And she knew that taking a chance going to the king, telling him, look, I'm a Jew and what this man had done, and by her doing that it could be death, because anybody that came to the king without being called, you will be put to death. So she risked her life, to save her people. So these are the women that we ascend from, and everybody should know um, about the story of Esther. If you haven't read it in the King James Bible, um, there's another version of it in the what is this? The King James Bible, the 1611 King James. It's another version of Esther. It's called the Editions of Esther. And when you read it, you see where Esther talks about lying with having to lie with uncircumcised men, uncircumcised heathen. But she did this for her nation, And you can go back and, it's called the Additions to Esther. It's in the Apocrypha, the 1611 King James Bible. You can go back, or you can read the, book of Esther in the regular Bible, King James Bible. But yeah, she also, risked her life to save her people, and Queen Esther was really beautiful too, because when he was selecting a queen, he was selecting a queen out of the women of the nations all around, and she was a slave. She was in captivity when she was selected to be queen. So, don't count our sisters out, you know. We come from some strong women. We come from beautiful women, and our beauty didn't have nothing to do with our strength. Even though they were beautiful, they were still strong and courageous. And in a lot of cases, risked their lives, because they love their people and they love the Most High, and that's what we need to be. We have to come back to, loving each other again. And like I said, especially the women, they try to divide us with the dark skinned ones against the light skinned ones. And I just want to tell my sisters with dark skin, you are the most beautiful. You are the most beautiful. They try to make it seem like, you know, the light skinned is what, because you're so closer to being their color, that the light skinned were more beautiful and more attractive than the dark skin. That was a lie. That was just a lie to more, deceive us and to, pit us against one another. But we can't see that no more. We can't see the light skin against the dark, and the good hair against the bad hair. Look, because when it all comes down to it, and when we all being dealt with by the heathens, you know, we're all still niggas to them. Whether we light skin, dark skin, good hair, bad hair, you still a nigga. So we have to break that, and quit believing the lies of the heathens that they put on us, and to cause us to hate one another. We have to break that. You know, we have to break that and change that and come back to each other and establish our relationships, again with each other, because they liars and they lied to us. So don't believe that, you know. So let's continue on. Um, Another sister that I often like to talk about too at the camps. Oh, they like to come against her and say, yeah, after the Most High told her what to do, uh, um, she had to tell it to the man, and then he took over from that. But that's not what the scriptures say, and it's the prophetess Deborah. She was a judge in Israel, and she ended up going to war. But in Israel, she wasn't just a judge. I mean, a prophetess. She was also a judge of Israel. That means the people of Israel came to her for judgment. So how can you be a judge and a prophetess? A prophetess or a prophet is someone who speaks for the Most High. You know. So how can you be a judge and a prophetess and you have to be silent and you can't speak the Most High word, or what do you think she judged the people by? The law. The law of the Most High. So she's one that we're gonna look at as well. And we're gonna find her remember when I said that before there was a king in Israel, the Most High used judges that he appointed to judge Israel, because the Most High was our king. So Deborah is a judge, just like Samson was a judge, just like Samuel was a judge, Gideon, Japheth. She was also a judge of Israel. So we're going to go to Judges chapter 4. I'm going to start at the first verse. And the children of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Most High when Ehud was dead. And the Most High sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, that reigned in Hazor, the captain of the host of Sisera, which dwelt in Harosheth of the Gentiles. And the children of Israel cried unto the Most High, for he had 900 chariots of iron. In 20 years he mightily oppressed the children of Israel. And Deborah the prophetess, the wife of Lepido, she judged Israel at that time, and she dwelt under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in Mount Ephraim. And the children of Israel came up to her for judgment. And she sent and called Barak the son of Abinadab out of Kadesh Naphtali, and said unto him, Had not the Most High of Israel commanded, saying, Go and draw toward Mount Tabor, and take with thee 10,000 men of the children of Naphtali and of the children of Zebulun? And I will draw unto thee a river Kishon, Sisera, the captain of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his multitude, and I will deliver him into thine hand. And Barak said unto her, If thou wilt go with me, then I will go. But if thou wilt not go with me, then I will not go. And she said, I will surely go with thee, notwithstanding the journey that thou takest shall not be for thine honor. For the Most High shall sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. And Deborah rose and went with Barak to Kadesh. And I'm going to stop right here, because her being a prophetess says a lot. But she was also a judge, and she also went to war, because Barak, he would not go without her. So we see here, and the Most High delivered them into the hand of a woman. Yep, let that soak in. So these are the women that we come from. These are the women who we descend from. Okay. Now Judith, she cut off a man's head. That took a lot of faith in the Most High to go there by herself with just her maid. You know. And they were saying how beautiful she was. You know. Okay, and we're gonna do one more, and then I'm gonna have to do a part two because it's a lot of women in the scriptures, you know, that did something for the nation of Israel. But the next one I'm gonna go to is Susanna. And Susanna is also found in the 1611 King James Bible. But Susanna is only one chapter. She's someone that we hardly ever get talked about. Okay, it's going to start at the Susanna, the first chapter, the only chapter, start at the first verse. There dwelt a man in Babylon called Joachim, and his wife took, and he took a wife whose name was Susanna, the daughter of Shilsiah, a fair woman, and one that feared the Most High. Her parents also were righteous and taught their daughter according to the law of Moses. Now Joachim was a great rich man and had a fair garden joining into his house, and to him resorted the Jews because he was more honorable than all others. The same year were appointed two of the ancients of the people to be judges, such as the Most High spake of. That wickedness came from Babylon from ancient judges, who seemed to govern the people. These kept much at Joachim's house, and all that had any suits in law came unto them. Now when the people departed away at noon, Susanna went into her husband's garden to walk. And the two elders saw her going in every day and walking, so their lust was inflamed toward her. And they perverted their own mind and turned away their eyes, that they might not look unto heaven, nor remember their judgments. And albeit they both were wounded with her love, yet durst not one show another his grief, for they were ashamed to declare their lust, that they desired to have to do with her. Yet they watched diligently from day to day to see her. And the one said to the other, Let us now go home, for it is dinner time. So when they were gone out, they parted the one from the other, and turning back again, they came to the same place. And after that they had asked one another the cause, they acknowledged their lust. Then appointed they a time, both together, when they might find her alone. And it fell out as they watched for a time, she went in as before with two maids only, and she was desirous to wash herself in the garden, for it was hot. And there was nobody there save the two elders that had hid themselves and watched her. Then she said to her maids, Bring me oil and wash your bowls, and shut the garden doors, that I may wash me. And they did as she bade them, and shut the garden doors, and went out themselves at privy doors to fetch the things that she had commanded. But they saw not the elders because they were hid. Now when the maids were gone forth, the two elders rose up and ran unto her, saying, Behold, the garden doors are shut, that no man can see us, and we are in love with thee. Therefore consent unto us, and lie with us. If thou wilt not, we will bear thee witness against thee, that a young man was with thee, and therefore thou didst send away thy maids from thee. Then Susanna sighed and said, I am straitened on every side, for if I do this thing, it is death unto me. And if I do it not, I cannot escape your hands. It is better for me to fall into your hands and not do it, than to sin in the sight of the Most High. With that, Susanna cried with a loud voice, and the elders cried out against her. Then ran the one and opened the door. So when the servants of the house heard the cry in the garden, they rushed in at the privy door to see what was done to her. But when the elders had declared that matter, the servants were greatly ashamed, for there was never such a report made of Susanna. And it came to pass the next day, when the people were assembled to her husband Joachim, the two elders came also full of mischievousness, imagination against Susanna, to put her to death. and said before the people, "Send for Susanna, the daughter of Chikiah, Joachim's wife." And so they sent. So she came with her father and mother, her children, and all her kindreds. And Susanna was a very delicate woman and beauteous to behold. And these wicked men commanded to uncover her face, for she was covered, that they might be filled with her beauty. Therefore her friends and all that saw her wept. Then the two elders stood up in the midst of the people and laid their hands upon her head. And she weeping looked up towards heaven, for her heart trusted in the Most High. And the elders said, "As we walked in the garden alone, this woman came in with two maids and shut the garden doors and sent the maids away. Then a young man who was hid came unto her and lay with her. Then we that stood in the corner of the garden, seeing this wicked, and ran unto them. And when we saw them together, the man we could not hold, for he was stronger than we, and opened the door and leapt out. But having taken this woman, we asked who the young man was, but she would not tell us. These things do we testify." Then the assembly believed them as those that were the elders and judges of the people, so they condemned her to death. Then Susanna cried out with a loud voice and said, "O everlasting Elohym, that knowest the secrets and knowest all things before they be, thou knowest that they have borne false witness against me, and behold, I must die. Whereas I never did such things as these men have maliciously invented against me." And the Most High heard her voice. Therefore, when she was led to be put to death, the Most High raised up the Holy Spirit of a young youth whose name was Daniel, who cried with a loud voice, "I am cleared from the blood of this woman." Then all the people turned them toward him and said, "What mean these words that thou hast spoken?" So he, standing in the midst of them, said, "Are ye such fools, ye sons of Israel, that without examination or knowledge of the truth ye have condemned the daughter of Israel? Return again to the place of judgment, that they have borne false witness against her." Wherefore all the people turned again in haste, and the elder said unto him, "Come, sit down among us, and show it us, seeing the Most High hath given thee the honor of an elder." Then said Daniel unto them, "Put these two aside, one far from another, and I will examine them." So when they were put asunder, one from another, he called one of them and said unto him, "O thou that art waxen old in wickedness, now thy sins which thou hast committed aforetime are come to light. For thou hast pronounced false judgment, and hast condemned the innocent, and hast let the guilty go free. Albeit the Most High said, The innocent and righteous shalt thou not slay. Then, now then, if thou hast seen her, tell me, under what tree sawest thou them accompanying together?" Who answered, "Under a maestake tree." And Daniel said, "Very well, thou hast lied against thine own head, for even now the angel of the Most High hath received the sentence of the Most High to cut thee in two." So he put him aside and commanded to be brought the other, and said unto him, "O thou seed of Canaan, and not of Judah, beauty hath deceived thee, and lust hath perverted thine heart. Thus have ye dealt with the daughters of Israel, and they for fear company with you. But the daughter of Judah would not abide your wickedness. Now therefore tell me, under what tree did thou take them accompanying together?" Who answered, "Under an home tree." Then said Daniel unto him, "Well, thou hast also lied against thine own head, for the angel of the Most High waited with the sword to cut thee in two, that he may destroy you." With that all the assembly cried out with a loud voice and praised the Most High, who saved them that trust in him. And they arose against the two elders, for Daniel had convicted them of false witness by their mouth. According to the law of Moses, they did unto them in the sort as they maliciously intended to do to their neighbor, and put them to death. Thus the innocent blood was saved the same day. Therefore Chikiah and his wife praised the Most High for their daughter Susanna, with Joachim her husband, and all the kindred, because there was no dishonesty found in her. From that day forth was Daniel had in great reputation in the sight of people. The Daniel that came to save her is the Daniel of the Bible, the one that went to Babylon and stood in the presence of Nebuchadnezzar. So I'm going to stop right here today. There are several other women of Israel that did courageous acts for their people and for the Most High. And they stood for something and kept themselves. And we need to see who these women that we're descended from, so we can learn how to have you know uh, loyalty to one another, loyalty to the Most High, and also to keep ourselves for the Most High. Susanna, even though she was going to die, she still said, I can't sin in the sight of the Most High. And that's how some of us need to be, and stop laying with these men, without a marriage license. Or if you're in a polygamous relationship, laying with somebody else's husband. So, the next time we'll talk about the women who are around the Messiah. We'll also talk about the curses put on the daughters of Zion, and we'll look at a few more courageous and beautiful women in the scriptures. And we'll also show you some examples of how they stuck together, and how they, you know, uh, were one with each other, and that's what we have to do to get a nation back, on the right track. So I pray that you enjoyed it, and I pray that you were edified by it. I pray that you were encouraged. I'm trying to encourage my sisters and bring us back to who we were, and to start embrace our natural beauty, and because really and truly, like I said before, they want to be like us. We trying to be like them, and they want to be like us. So we need to start being like us, and be the example, you know, to the other women of the other nations, and our younger women that comes up behind us, our youth. We have to be an example to them. We can't let our daughters and nieces and nephews see us laying up with men, that we're not married to. So we need to, start having respect for ourselves, and, so I pray that you were edified by the study topic, and I pray that you join me for the next one. And I just want you to be encouraged and stay strong and stay in the fight and keep trusting in the Most High. Put Him first and make Him your king. And if you're looking for a husband, if you desire a husband, the Most High will send you a husband. That's the husband that you really want. Thank you again, and Most High bless you.